Okay, so Worth Unlimited, we've been talking about sales track. We've been going through a lot of different areas. Last week, we talked about using the analysis slideshow as a tool for closing with your client. I'm showing you the tools at this juncture, and then we're going to go next week and the next few weeks and look at actual techniques Ben Franklin, Feel, Felt, Found, and then try to tie this all together with your tools and what you've learned as far as your use of qualifiers and tie downs, your 15-second commercial, your first 6 lessons, and how all of this comes together to create the package that brings you into the closing with the individual. Now, for those of you, that are new, you do have 3 different avenues for closing deals, and that would be you take it from beginning to end on your own. You do the introduction and then turn it over to a field closer, someone in your upline, somebody that's had experience in closing, or you do the introductions and you turn it over to the corporate office. In the 2 latter cases, you do forfeit a little bit of your commission, but not enough that it's not worth going down that route if you have difficulty in closing deals. In fact, we have individuals in the company that are in the higher executive levels of the company that utilize the corporate office to do the closing, not because they don't have the ability to close the deal. They just find it's more time effective for them to do the introductions and turn the individuals over to the corporate office and let it be closed that way. It's a better use of their time with other businesses and things that they have going on. So do know that whether you're trying to close the deal from beginning to end or you're turning it over to the corporate office, you have opportunity to make good money with the company. Where we are in our sales track is we're on our 2nd appointment, so to speak, and we have generated the report. The first way we looked at it is we went through the slideshow with the client. Today we're going to look at just the PDF analysis. Do remember it's very important before going into the results with the client that you review the information with the client as well. So our first 6 lessons of sales track are the starting point, your 15-second commercial, your use of qualifiers and tie downs, your personal borrowed story, your litmus test, and setting the appointment in stone. And as we have discussed time and time again on these calls, this is your introduction. This is where you're going to kind of lay it out to the client. You are offering kind of who you are. This is their first blush. This is going to be their first interaction with you. So these points, I know this seems like a lot for people that are brand new. They're like, my goodness, there's 6 of them. No, this is about 15, 20 minutes of conversation. We've just broken it down into pretty minute detail as far as the different aspects of that conversation leading up to setting that first appointment, and that first appointment being for the purpose of getting the numbers you need to accurately run an analysis for the client. Operating through that, once you've run that analysis, then you move into setting up that 2nd appointment. So we have a sales process, and that first process is to gain interest. The first 6 lessons of sales track are what we do to do that. And the second is to send the videos, a live webinar in person. This is your first appointment. I need you all to understand this is an appointment. Whether you're sending videos, whether you're meeting in person, whether you're doing a live webinar, Darlene closes 80% of all of her deals online. So it can be done face-to-face. It can be done online. It can be done through the corporate office. It's just a matter of finding the people. You have to get out there and talk to people and start putting them through a funnel and then getting those people, either you're trying to close a deal or turn them over to a corporate person. I tell you right now, it's better to have 70% of something than have 100% of absolutely nothing. So if you have been struggling to close deals, stop beating your head against the wall. Go back to some of those old people. Tell them, when I say old people, go back to some of your previous prospects that you had that you weren't able to close deals, and even tell them some of the effects. I think maybe I did you a disservice. I was new at this. Maybe I didn't explain it well. Let's take another look at this, but let's have the corporate office explain it to you. Let's have them run your analysis. just because somebody told you no does not mean it's no forever. It was no for that day. If you have had analysis with clients, please go back and review with them. Please reach back 6 months, a year, unless they told you, don't ever call me again. If they didn't, reach back to them, hey, I was thinking about you, I know you're still paying on your house, or blah, 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 or maybe you don't even know that. Hey, last time we spoke was about 6 months ago, and I talked to you about a program to help you pay off debt. Just wondering if anything has changed in your situation. So this number 2 is actually your first appointment. And when you do appointments, always make sure you give deadlines. So you're going to do that first appointment to run the analysis, to gather the numbers. So if you're sending videos and doing live webinars, this is going to be your first appointment, is to send those. If you are meeting in person, once you have breach that gap where they say, okay, yeah, I want to see what this program can do for me, that is truly your first, what I would call, hard appointment. And that's where now it's not just you sent the videos. The reason I'm saying your true first appointment is this number 2 here, send the videos live or in person. Anytime you meet with a client, you need to set it up as an appointment. You need to put it in an itinerary. You need to make a big deal about it, that your time is important, your time is valuable. If you just send videos or ask them to do a webinar and you don't set them down a time, chances of them showing up are pretty slim, or chances of them watching the videos on the timeline that you want them to watch is going to be pretty slim. You're going to be doing a lot of follow-up to find out when they've watched the videos. First appointment, run their analysis, gather numbers, build rapport, set appointment for 28 to 48 hours, and that is for your second appointment, and that second appointment is to review results and close. And that's what we're in the middle of now is the second appointment. As I mentioned last week, we looked at the slideshow as your way to move through that. What I do want you to understand is to take your time with the analysis. It's an integral part of the closing process. It's essential that you take your time and review each section with your prospect to ensure they have a clear understanding of the information being presented. Review the pain with your client. I know a lot of people don't like talking about that, but and using that terminology, but that's the easiest way to describe it. You're reviewing their particular situation, and there we go. Thank you, Nick, Kai, Joan, everyone. My goodness, I am so sorry I didn't have the question section up, and I didn't realize it was displaying this in a slideshow version. So do apologize for that. Joan, I apologize because I know you love the recordings. Sorry about that, but we're getting ready to jump into the presentation for this section. So hopefully this will be good. All right, let's just keep going. Sorry about that, y'all. Get them saying yes. Review the pain with your client and get them saying yes. These are two integral pieces when you're going back and reviewing this information with your client. Getting them saying yes is putting them in that agreeable mode. It's almost, we talked a little bit about conditioning, the whole idea in one of the webinars, if you ask somebody to say the word go over and over again and then stop them and say, what do you do when you come to a red light? About 8 out of 10 people will say go, even though they know they're supposed to stop at a red light. So getting the client saying yes is just getting them familiar and comfortable and moving them towards that. And so at the end of, are you ready to start receiving your savings now? Yes is a pretty easy word to come out of the mouth. Reviewing the pain with the client is all about going back over the journey, reviewing their debt with them step by step, piece by piece, to make sure that they understand where they are in this situation. And many times clients, can forget what they've gone through to get to where they are in this process with you, or why it was initially important for them to sit down and have an analysis done with you. So on the second appointment, reviewing that information is a big deal. Your back office, as we saw last week, provides you with an animated analysis slideshow for you to use when reviewing the prospect's analysis. This week, what we're going to look at is we are going to look at the analysis PDF, And the first thing I want to say there is do not give them a copy until they buy. I know there's a lot of different thoughts here, but I've been doing this for a long time. If they say, well, can I get a copy of that? No, when you purchase it, that'll be yours for now. This is mine. There's a very tactful way of saying that. Well, I want my tax guy to review this and make sense of it. Great. When can we set up a meeting between you, your tax guy, and me? Well, no, you don't need to be there. No, yes, I do need to be there. And why do we need to be there? Because we don't want someone else representing our product. This is a big deal. You give all the information. It's the whole idea of not doing a one-legged appointment with husband and wife, or wife and significant other, or husband and significant other, or whatever, mom, dad, kids. However it breaks down, that's why it makes no sense to do a one-legged appointment. If it's because you're going to give all the information to one person, they're going to try to take this process that you use tools and you've taken time to learn and everything and explain that to somebody else. And what do we know about trying to explain this product? It's like verbal suicide. You have to use the tools. So if you're in that position where they say, well, I want my tax guy to review it, my accountant to review it, I want my husband to take a look, that's great. I'm more than glad to set up a meeting. We can even do a webinar. We can go over this with them on the webinar. We can meet in person, but until you purchase, this is actually my copy. So when would you like to set up that meeting that they can review it? Well, if you're not going to give me a copy, then I'm not going to review it. Well, then you can always come back and say something like, so you're going to allow this situation to cost you potentially, $140,000 in future interest because you don't want to set up a meeting with me, you, and your tax guy. I mean, what if your tax guy takes a look at this? What if your accountant, your CPA takes a look at this and says, man, this is awesome. You need to do it. I mean, I'm putting myself out there for you just in the same way that your tax guy can come back and say, this is ridiculous. What are you doing? There's always a way to move through it, but with this analysis, do not give them a copy. You should be, now if you're meeting with them in person, I did this a long time ago where we were always meeting in person, but I want to bring something that if you're doing it as a webinar, okay? So if you're going to do it in person, you should be sitting alongside them. Take out a pen or highlighter, place the printed analysis copy between you. Keep your hand on the analysis and go through it line by line using the pen or a highlighter as a pointer. You may circle, underline, or highlight areas you want them to pay special attention to. You will notice their attention will be drawn to where your instrument points. Now, if you're sitting alongside of them, that is as simple as just the tip of a pen and just, putting it on different sections. They'll look there, or taking a highlighter and striking different areas, and they will look there. If you take the pen up off the paper, you'll see their eyes will follow the pen. It's very unusual, but it's true. If you're doing a webinar, you can bring up a cursor. And in the cursor, you can do the same thing. You can go down with a cursor and you can say, now this item and this item and this item and this item and this item. And what you want to do is you want to keep their attention focused, and you want to continually be asking them questions. And this is where you're reviewing the pain with them, or you're going through the results. But in reviewing the pain, you definitely want to go down this with them and go, okay, this is what we know is your mortgage debt. This is what we know is this. Boom, 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 and go all the way through it. Now, I will tell you that once you have produced the analysis, it's a little bit harder to detail down with the client. So if you are doing this with a client where you want to take them through and have them feel the pain, it's probably a good idea to pull up their analysis and go through each of the items in the analysis with them before you actually go to the view of the analysis. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause here for just a second. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. Just move this out of the way. Just want to make sure everybody can see the correct screen. All right. Joan, are we looking at Agent Portal on your side? All right, awesome. Okay, so we've got the agent portal up. We're doing good there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into our sample client that we have used for years. Let me just move this over to the side as well so we can see this a little bit better. All right, there we go. So we're going to bring in Rebecca Jones. Okay, so if we go into the analysis, now what I did is I have a master copy in here, and I want you all to see this, that in the master copy, I had added an additional mortgage, but we also had an additional income. We had a rental property in this one, and in this particular, but this is a great way to review it with your client, is what I'm showing you as well. So I went to analysis. I went to the analysis that I wanted to bring up. So right here under Rebecca Jones, went to her analysis. I went to the master. Now I did do one with one property, and that'll be the one we'll review. It just makes it a little bit easier. It's a little bit more realistic. When you have, well, something I did want you to know is that when you have the master copy open like this, you can make changes here and save it as different analysis. So what you would do is if you wanted an additional analysis, is clicking here on the analysis, you would just go to new and you would rename that, and then you would open it. Then anything that you alter or adjust in that original analysis will be saved under this new analysis name. And now what I did was I did one for one property, and that's one I'm going to open up, and you're going to see when we go up here to the debt that there's only one mortgage in this one, okay? So I did want you to know that you can build as many analyses as you want to build, and you can go to these at different intervals, but be careful about confusing your client, about showing them too many options or adding too many variables, or they say, well, what would it do if it would do this, or what if they do if it would do this? Be careful of that. Clients will, well, what if I only did this, or what if I only put this much money to it? Well, what you want is the truth, the accurate thing. So in the very beginning, it's very important that you set up with your client, look, if you really want to see how well this is going to perform for you, I need to know about all of your income. I don't report to the IRS. We have nothing to do with any banks. We're an independent agency. I need to see all of the income so we have a clear picture of how much money is coming in the door that is usable. Okay, and then I need a clear picture of your debt. And when I say a clear picture, we want accurate interest rates. We want the term. We want all of the information that is involved with that particular situation. And so with this, we can detail down as far as we want to go with the client just by walking through these screens with the client. Now this is a situation, I mentioned that, you know, you could be doing some appointments in rural areas, and so therefore always have printed copies of things of that nature. You can actually print these screens off if you do print screen. I'm not saying that that is that important. We're finding less and less of rural areas that don't have internet access. But on each one of these, you can click into any one of these while you're reviewing with your client. Remember, that's where we are as we're reviewing this. And this would be where we're taking them through feeling the pain. You could say, you know, in our situation, you have a first mortgage, you had a home equity line of credit, you had an auto loan, and you had a visa. Does that sound right? Does that sound, did we hit all of the debts that we're trying to eliminate? Okay, let's look at this first mortgage real quick. Now, I just want to make sure I was right. It was a $200,000 mortgage at 6% interest. Now, that 6% interest, that was a refi, right? And how much money did you spend in that refi? Yeah, that's what I thought. It was about $7,000. Now, you don't escrow because you don't like the bank using your money. That's one of the reasons you're sitting down listening to this. That's one of the reasons you wanted us to run this, because you realize how much money is being spent, how much money the bank is receiving just in interest alone, and we're going to show you here at the end of this how to curtail that, how to put yourself in an advantage where you're using the bank's money to actually build your nest egg. You see how I segued in a little bit of selling just with the first item, the first point, which is the first mortgage, capitalizing on 2 points that we talked about back in qualifiers and tie downs. when you're talking to them about the mortgage, hey, how long ago did you get that mortgage? Is that the original or is that a refi? On that refi, do you remember how much? Well, do you escrow your money or do you pay your taxes on your own? Well, great. Why do you escrow? Well, a lot of people escrow because they are afraid they won't have the money available to pay their taxes. Maybe that was the client's reason. You need these notes and you need this verbal language and understanding that you've had with the client throughout this process while you've been walking through this process with them. This is where you're going to pull all of this together and you're going to bring it all together to make sense. You can move into the home equity line of credit and say, now, your home equity line of credit, to my understanding, you have a $3,500 balance on that. Your interest rate is 8.6%. That means currently your payment is $35.25 on that home equity line of credit. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Awesome. And you just keep moving through each one of the debts, helping them to feel the pain. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to come to the income. Now, I just want to make sure. Now, you did report all the income to me. There's not any additional income that's coming in that you have utilization of that you don't have earmarked for something else. Nope. Okay, so we're dealing with, $2,600 semi-monthly on you, John, and $2,400 semi-monthly on you. Correct. Rebecca, is that correct? Is that correct, John? Yes. Excellent. All right, so we're going to move into expenses. So you're going to do this with each one of these. And with the expenses, the income we have is $5,000 a month was your rough income. Your expenses, your debt payments were $1,750. We have $2,316 for all of your monthly expenses, and that would include everything that we didn't itemize. That would be, your cell phone, your gas, your groceries. Your internet, your TV, your car insurance, your life insurance, everything that we did not itemize is being represented there by $2,316. Does that still seem like an accurate number? You all did a worksheet for me. This is what we came up with. I just want to make sure. Does that seem accurate? Is $2,316 light? Is it heavy, or is it pretty much the number, pretty average on the month, that after you've paid your fixed bills, which is your mortgage, your car loan, your Visa, and your HELOC that we've already outlined, that once you've paid those, your other living expenses are going to equal about $2,316. Does that sound about right? Leaving you a discretionary income of about $934 per month. Thank you, Nick. So does that still sound right to you? Well, yes, that sounds right to us. Okay, great. So on your bank accounts, I noticed that you had a checking account. At that time, you had $500 in it. You had a savings account. You had $5,100. Has that changed dramatically in any way? I mean, if it's changed within $100 up or down, you really don't have to do much. But if they've lost, they don't have anything in their checking, and they spend everything in their savings, you might have a little bit different scenario on your hands. But at the end of the day, they're still going to have a benefit, so you need to show some money in checking and some money in savings. It's just going to take them a little bit longer to jump start the program because they have no money to really start out with. Okay, so that could also be a difficulty when it comes to buying the product. And that's something else that I wanted to mention. This whole idea of using the home equity line of credit, I really want you all to start looking into that and really investigating that with your local banks. Home equity lines of credit are very readily available now. We have more and more people that are looking into that. And if you've ever run into the difficulty of how am I going to pay for the product for the client, I just don't have the money. When someone qualifies for that home equity line of credit, they have X amount of dollars open and available to them. And what I have found is it's a very, very easy movement to get the client to take the cost of the product out of their equity line of credit and pay for it right up front, knowing that the program is going to help them pay that back in a very accelerated period of time as well. You can go into other here, and here's where maybe if you didn't get all of the information, you can maybe go back and say, I like to send birthday cards and things. Do you mind if I get your birth date? We had a debt-free goal. If they hadn't given it to you, we said we had a debt-free goal of 2031. That'd be by the time you're age 70. You were figuring on 13 years from where you are now. That's why this is important, because you already kind of have an idea of where you're at with the client. And if you're under their debt-free target date, you're already kind of in the golden place, okay? So if we go to the summary, this summarizes everything, and we can go through it with the client and say, okay, so we have the total income, your total monthly expenses, this is your total debt with your fixed payments, this is how much you have in total income, total expenses, total debt payments, your discretionary income, primary checking, primary savings. Does all of this look right? Once they say yes, what you're going to do is go to the report, and this is what their report actually looks like. And you have many different pieces in here that can help you close with the client. And this is why I tell the client, tell you all, please go to the beginning and take your time with the client. You know, just go back over. You can see here's your mortgage, here's your loan, here's your credit cards, your interest rates, and what we've done is given you a balance, an average interest rate that you're paying, and the total of all of your payments that you're making. And this is what we just went through. Now, over here on your discretionary income analysis, we know we have $5,000 a month. We know we have the debt payments of $1,749 that we can see here. And we have other monthly expenses that we defined at $2,316 in the last screen. And that leaves us a discretionary income of $934, which is 18.7% of your total income. And we realized that this was accurate and this was correct. So let me just tell you what we do know. We do know that you qualify for the program. Now, having debt is no walk in the park. I would read this to the client. This month, you'll pay over $1,100 in interest alone. That's 65% of your monthly payment gone. You realize that every time you make a monthly payment, 65% of it is gone. On average, over the next 30 years, your bank's plan will cost you more than $650 per month in interest. You will spend, and take your time with each one of these, that they really understand this. Do you understand 30 years, it's going to cost you more than $650 per month in just interest. You'll spend $5.90 for every $1 you pay down in principal. So every time you pay off $1, you're going to pay almost $6 to pay off $1. That equation is definitely not in your benefit. It will be December 2037 when you are 76 years old before you paid off half of your debt, and you will still owe $115,000. This is one that I would tell them, why don't you write that down? If you just keep doing what you're doing, you won't pay off till December 2037 when you're 76 years old, and you will have only paid off half when you're 76, and you will still owe $115,000. How does that make you feel? Well, let's see where we're at for you individually. So let's see what we have. Your bank's plan is $468,838 in total debt payments. With the Worth account, you're going to pay back $298,788. That means with the Worth account program, you're going to save $170,051. Let's make it 111 payments at $1,532. Think about that, 111 payments. All right, let's move to the next section here. Total interest payments. $238,338. That's 4 years worth of your entire income of $5,000 a month just to cover interest. Wow. $68,288 is what you'll pay with Worth. You would need an interest rate of 1.81% to pay this little interest on a 30-year loan. So I want you to think about something. We're not changing your interest rate, as you know, as we've discussed. You still have the same interest rate. But if you follow the program effectively, you will have paid back at an interest rate of 1.81%. How does that sound to you as opposed to an interest rate of 6%, 5%, 4%? You will save $170,051. You'll save 71% in interest, or 2.8 years worth of your entire income. That's what you're going to save. Projected payoff, if you stay with what you're doing, is 30 years. With our program, are you ready for this? You said you want to pay off 13 years. I will have you paid off 9.3 years, saving you 20.8 years. You'll be debt-free by age 66. You told me you wanted age 70 after only 111 payments. I want you to really think, if you thought this was real, I'm talking to the client here, if you thought this was real, wouldn't that blow your mind that you could actually do? Now, I want you to understand something. This is real, and this will do this with no adjustment to your current income or standard of living. If anything, it's going to be better for your standard of living. How does that make you feel? And let them talk. Let them get in. You notice I've asked, how does that make you feel 3 times in this? While you're going through it, get them engaged, get them excited about what it is, because you should be excited about this. I mean, thinking about the fact that you could take a family from 30 years of debt, and in 9.3 years they'd be totally out of debt, saving them 20.8 years. That's mind-boggling. So the wealth accumulation side here says that you have 0 debt payments, and that will be accomplished in 9.3 years. With the worth account, we'll use 20.8 years saved to build your wealth. This is 20.8 years. This right here is the difference, what he has to pay off. So what it's basically saying to your client here is, with that 20.8 years, if you just took your debt payments and just threw them in a savings account, by the end of the same amount of time at 1% rate of return, in the same 30 years it would have taken you just to pay off your debt, you'll have all of your debt free and clear, 9.3, and in that same 30 years, if you take that money and designate it to a savings account of 1%, you'll have $742,300 sitting in an account. And that's if you just put it in a bank account and let it sit. That's not doing any investment or portfolio or anything along those lines. Why wait? Start saving today. Are you ready to start receiving your savings? Is today the day that you want to start taking money back away from the bank? Is today the day that you want to start leveraging the programs of the bank to your benefit rather than to the benefit of the bank? Is today the day that you're going to take some of that money back from the bank and use that money to help you build your nest egg? I'm not saying that you say all 5 of those to someone. I'm just giving you different ways of closing your deal down with them with a very assumptive, very affirmative close. Look, you've seen the numbers. It's almost like you're assuming you'd be ridiculous not to buy this product in 9.3 years is your payoff, saving 20 years and saving you literally $170,000 in future interest that you would pay to the bank if you just followed the standardized banking program, which you could tell me all day long. Like I said, I'm not trying to run over the client. I'm just trying to give you some ideas. You can tell me all day long you're going to send extra money to your mortgage, but we know how life goes. We know where you were with your mortgage when I met you. This is a program where it will direct you. It will keep you on track, keep you on pace, so you can achieve that goal of being debt-free, so you can move on to that second property, so you can buy that vacation home, so you can get that timeshare, so you can get that second property and start making that passive income, so you can build that secondary house back on your back property for mom and dad, so you can help your kids get through college, so you can finish college, so you can rebuild the 1967 Chevelle SS you've had in your garage for 10 years, so you can live your dreams, so you can use the money that you have accumulated over time through your hard work to your advantage, and you can enjoy it. Now, I don't know exactly what words you're going to use with your client, but anything along those lines will work. Then you have a complete breakdown for your client here. And in this breakdown, you have something over here, the left and the right side, which gives you the years, gives you the balance as scheduled by the bank, and then gives you the balance as scheduled by work down here into blue, showing the 9 years of payoff, and then showing if they just started investing that money at 1%. the wealth accumulation there. This section here is called a payoff worksheet, and so when you click that, it gives you this worksheet right here. You have high payoff worksheet, which we got to scroll back down to it, which would be right in this area right here, or show the payoff worksheet, and this would be for your accountants, your CPAs, all those people that want to see the finer numbers that go in correlation with it, and this will balance the sheet for them where every penny is accounted for. This wealth accumulation side, and just showing them, look, you can keep paying all the way down here in the red, or you can stop paying right here on that mortgage and move on to bigger and better things. And this is just showing you 1% rate of return. What have you been getting in a rate of return? What would you do with that money? What would you do? What would you do with 20 years of mortgage payments that you don't have to make, and knowing that your car is paid off, and knowing that the HELOC is paid off, and knowing the visa's already gone? And what are they probably going to say? Well, it's not always going to be that way. No, you're probably going to incur other debt. If you pay this off this quick, you're going to buy some of the things that you wanted to buy, and you'll probably incur some debt along the way. The beauty of the program is it's interactive with you. So it's not just a static look. I'm showing you here a worst case scenario of what this program can do for you. But the program in action, did you watch the demo that I sent to you? No, you didn't have a chance to watch it. Well, we could take the time to go through a demo so you can see it, or you could take the time, let's watch the demo right now, just so you see exactly how to do it, or maybe we should do a demo right now. Now, I'm not telling you just offer that up, but I'm trying to show you how this segues, how you use all of this information together. At this point, this is where you're coming down to. This meeting is where you want to close. This is where you want to collect the money, whether this be on a web conference, whether this be person to person, whether this be the corporate office or the individuals that are making the call. This is where the rubber hits the road. This is where you close the sale or you don't close the sale. I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. I want to thank everybody for being on the call with the information that we're going through with the closing at this point. I'm very excited about where we're headed. Next week, we're going to talk about closing techniques. I'm going to get Darlene and Joan both on the phone next week. This is more just process. This is more just kind of going over the line by line. A lot of information there, but go back and review. Next week, we'll get Joan and Darlene on the phone to talk about some closing techniques. I want to talk to Darlene a little bit next week about what she actually does, because she does her closings over the web, what she's using in the way of tools that we have to help close the deals by using web conference, and she's using the actual full analysis or what she's using. We're going to talk to her a little bit about that, and then also talk to Joan a little bit about how she sets up her process to move them through to a closing. And we'll talk about some closing techniques over the next couple of weeks as well. So I want to thank everybody for joining me. It's always a pleasure to have you all on these calls and to have your participation in what we are doing and what it is we are trying to accomplish. So with that having been said, this is Max Saunders, your National Sales and Training Director. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Let's get out there and do it big. Let's get out there and do it right. But at the very least, let's get out there and do something right now. This is Max Saunders saying bye-bye for now.